August 5. My darling Varinka, very well, my angel, very well. You have made up your mind that it is no harm so far that I have not got the money. Well, very good. I feel reassured. I am happy as regards you. I am delighted, in fact, that you are not going to leave me in my old age, but are going to stay in your lodging. In fact, to tell you everything, my heart was brimming over with joy when I saw that you wrote so nicely about me in your letter, and gave due credit to my feelings. I don't say this from pride, but because I see how you love me when you are so anxious about my heart. Well, what's the use of talking about my heart? The heart goes its own way, but you hint, my precious, that I mustn't be downhearted. Yes, my angel, maybe, and I say myself it is of no use being downhearted. But for all that, you tell me, my dear girl, what boots I am to go to in the office tomorrow. That's the trouble, Varinka, and you know such a thought destroys a man, destroys him utterly. And the worst of it is, my own, that it is not for myself I am troubled, it is not for myself I am distressed. As far as I am concerned, I don't mind going about without an overcoat and without boots in the hardest frost. I don't care. I can stand anything and put up with anything. I am a humble man of no importance. But what will people say? My enemies with their spiteful tongues, what will they say when one goes about without an overcoat? You know it is for the sake of other people one wears an overcoat. Yes, and boots, too, you put on, perhaps, on their account. Boots in such cases, Varinka darling, are necessary to keep up one's dignity and good name. In boots with holes in them, both dignity and good name are lost. Trust the experience of my years, my dear child. Listen to an old man like me who knows the world and what people are, and not to any scurrilous scribblers and satirists. I have not yet told you in detail, my darling, how it all happened today. I suffered so much. I endured in one morning more mental anguish than many a man endures in a year. This is how it was. First, I set off very early in the morning, so as to find him and be in time for the office afterwards. There was such a rain, such a sleet falling this morning. I wrapped myself up in my overcoat, my little dearie. I walked on and kept thinking, "O Lord, forgive my transgressions and grant the fulfillment of my desires." Passing St. X's church, I crossed myself, repented of all my sins, and thought that it was wrong of me to bargain with the Almighty. I was lost in my thoughts and did not feel like looking at anything, so I walked without picking my way. The streets were empty, and the few I met all seemed anxious and preoccupied, and no wonder. Who would go out at such an early hour and in such weather? A gang of workmen, grinning all over, met me. The rough fellows shoved against me. A feeling of dread came over me. I felt panic-stricken. To tell the truth, I didn't even like to think about the money. I felt I must just take my chance. Just at Voskresensky Bridge, the sole came off my boot, so I really don't know what I walked upon. And then I met our office attendant, Yermolev. He drew himself up at attention and stood looking after me as though he would ask for a drink. A drink, brother, I thought. Not much chance of a drink. I was awfully tired. I stood still, rested a bit, and pushed on farther. I looked about on purpose for something to fasten my attention on, to distract my mind, to cheer me up. But no, I couldn't fix one thought on anything, and besides, I was so muddy that I felt ashamed of myself. At last I saw in the distance a yellow wooden house with an upper story in the style of a belvedere. Well, thought I, so that's it. That's how Emelyan Ivanovitch described it. Markov's house. It is this Markov himself, Varinka, who lends money. I scarcely knew what I was doing, and I knew, of course, that it was Markov's house, but I asked a policeman. "Whose house is that, brother?" said I. The policeman was a surly fellow, seemed loth to speak and cross with someone. He filtered his words through his teeth, but he did say it was Markov's house. These policemen are always so unfeeling. But what did the policeman matter? Well, it all made a bad and unpleasant impression. In short, there was one thing on top of another. One finds in everything something akin to one's own position, and it is always so. I took 3 turns past the house, along the street, and the further I went, the worse I felt. No, I thought, he won't give it me. Nothing will induce him to give it me. I am a stranger, and it's a ticklish business, and I am not an attractive figure. Well, I thought, leave it to fate, if only I do not regret it afterwards. They won't devour me for making the attempt. And I softly opened the gate, and then another misfortune happened. A wretched, stupid yard dog fastened upon me. It was beside itself and barked its loudest. And it's just such wretched, trivial incidents that always madden a man, Varenka, and make him nervous and destroy all the determination he has been fortifying himself with beforehand. So that I went into the house more dead than alive, and walked straight into trouble again. Without seeing what was below me straight in the doorway, I went in, stumbled over a woman who was busy straining some milk from a pail into a jug, and spilt all the milk. The silly woman shrieked and made an outcry, saying, "Where are you shoving to, my man?" and made a deuce of a row. I may say, Varenka, it is always like this with me in such cases. It seems it is my fate. I always get mixed up in something. An old hag, the Finnish landlady, poked her head out at the noise. I went straight up to her. "Does Markov live here?" said I. "No," said she. She stood still and took a good look at me. "And what do you want with him?" I explained to her that Emelian had told me this and that, and all the rest of it. Said it was a matter of business. The old woman called her daughter a bare-legged girl in her teens. "Call your father. He's upstairs at the lodgers, most likely." I went in. The room was all right. There were pictures on the wall, all portraits of generals, a sofa, round table, mignonette, and balsam. I wondered whether I had not better clear out and take myself off for good and all. Oh, and dear, I did want to run away, Varenka. I had better come tomorrow, I thought, and the weather will be better, and I will wait a little. Today the milk's been spilt, and the generals look so cross. I was already at the door, but he came in, a grey-headed man with thievish eyes, in a greasy dressing-gown with a cord round his waist. He inquired how and why, and I told him that Emelian Ivanovitch had told me this and that. 40 roubles, I said, is what I've come about, and I couldn't finish. I saw from his eyes that the game was lost. "No," says he, "the fact is I've no money, and have you brought anything to pledge as security?" I began explaining that I had brought nothing to pledge, but that Emelian Ivanovitch— I explained, in fact, what was wanted. He heard it all. "No," said he, "what is Emelian Ivanovitch? I've no money." Well, I thought, there it is. I knew. I had a foreboding of it. Well, Varenka, it would have been better really if the earth had opened under me. I felt chill all over. My feet went numb, and a shiver ran down my back. I looked at him, and he looked at me, and almost said, "Come, run along, brother, it is no use your staying here," so that if such a thing had happened in other circumstances, I should have been quite ashamed. "And what do you want money for?" Do you know, he asked that, Varenka. I opened my mouth, if only not to stand there doing nothing, but he wouldn't listen. "No," he said, "I have no money. I would have lent it with pleasure," said he. Then I pressed him, telling him I only wanted a little, saying I would pay him back on the day fixed, that I would pay him back before the day fixed, that he could ask any interest he liked, and that, by God, I would pay him back. At that instant, my darling, I thought of you. I thought of all your troubles and privations. I thought of your poor little half-rouble.
But now, says he, the interest is no matter. If there had been a pledge now. Besides, I have no money. I have none, by God, or I'd oblige you with pleasure.
He took God's name too, the villain. Well, I don't remember my own how I went out, how I walked along Vyborgsky Street, how I got to Voskresensky Bridge. I was fearfully tired, shivering, wet through, and only succeeded in reaching the office at 10 o'clock. I wanted to brush the mud off, but Snegirev, the porter, said I mustn't. I should spoil the brush, and
"The brush is government property," said he.
That's how they all go on now, my dear. These gentry treat me no better than a rag to wipe their boots on. Do you know what is killing me, Varenka? It's not the money that's killing me, but all these little daily cares, these whispers, smiles, and jokes. His Excellency may by chance have to refer to me. Oh, my darling, my golden days are over. I read over all your letters today. It's sad, Varenka. Goodbye, my own. The Lord keep you. M. Diovushkin. P.S. I meant to describe my troubles half in a joke, Varenka, only it seems that it does not come off with me, joking. I wanted to satisfy you. I am coming to see you, my dear girl. I will be sure to come.